Hey guys, if you have a table saw like this and you don't have a sled, you're not using your table saw to its full potential. In woodworking, having a sled like this is a great asset for the many different projects that you're going to run across. It helps you with a lot of your cuts that you can't do with your regular fence or one of these things. And if you're wondering how to make one of these things, or even what they're good for, well, just keep watching. How's it going, guys? I just got back from picking up this massive table saw that you can see behind me. And as you probably know, table saws are probably the most used woodworking tool in the business. So yes, it is important to have a really nice one, just like this bad boy. But with a new table saw comes all new jigs that you need to make. So a jig is anything that you made yourself that can connect to the table saw to help you get that next perfect cut. Woodworkers have gotten so creative with their jig making that there's a jig for absolutely every cut. But we're not going to get too crazy, we're just going to be working on a simple sled jig. That's probably the first one that you're going to want to make with your new table saw. And all we need to make this sled jig is a piece of trim board, some plywood, 2x4, and some glue. Simple. So the first thing we're going to do is just grab our piece of trim board and make sure that it's pulling down to the same thickness of your table saw inserts. You want it to be able to slide freely back and forth in between the insert, but also make sure that it has a snug fit. Then we're going to measure how deep our table saw run is and put the table saw to that height. We're going to cut up that trim board and then make sure that it fits perfectly inside of our table saw inserts, just like this. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and lower our blade. And we want it so that it's not popping up anymore. And that's because we're going to go ahead and lay our plywood right on top. And we want to make sure that it's nice and flush. And since everything looks good, we're going to go ahead and grab our glue, remove this piece of plywood first. And we're going to go ahead and apply some glue onto our pieces of trim. We're going to glue it all together right on top of the table saw so that way when we take it off, we know that it'll be a perfect fit. Alright, now we just gotta wait for this to dry, and of course you know we're gonna go grab a beer. I'll see you when this is dry. Okay, so the glue is all dry on this, and as you can see, we got our two running boards on the bottom here. And as you can see, these things are on pretty tight, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to countersink some screws in here just for a little bit of added protection. And after that, it's time to put on our railings. So we got our two pieces of railing that we're going to use right here. This is just a piece of 2x4 that I squared up. You want to make sure that these are pretty straight. You don't want any bends or bows in it, especially for the front one over here because you're going to be placing your wood against it and you want to make sure it is square. But for this back rail, it doesn't really matter. The only purpose this has is to keep your plywood together because we're going to saw it in half. So all we're going to do here is just line it up with the back and actually clamp it down. Got the clamps over here. And now that we got our back railing here, we're just going to put some screws on the bottom. And you do want to make sure that you sink them in because when you're sliding this back and forth, you do not want that screw head to hit your table. So we got our back fence on nice and tight. So we're just going to flip it around. You see we got our back fence. And if I didn't say this already, you want to make sure that you test this out, make sure that it slides nice and easy. So now we got to work on the front fence here, but we can't just put it on wherever because we want to make sure that this is absolutely square with our blade. The only way we can really do that is if the blade is exposed. So what we're going to do is go ahead and rip right through this thing. Let's do it. So I know we just ripped through this sled, but before we start squaring anything up, we want to make sure that we give this front board a pivot point. So we're just going to go ahead and put a screw onto the corner of this. That way when we have it flipped over and we can start squaring it up, we have a pivot point that we can use to help square it. I need a battery, jeez. So we're just going to sink our screw into here, and again, you want to make sure that it is flush with your plywood or whatever material you like using. There, now that we got our screw in, we got our pivot point, so we can go ahead and square it up. And so now we have our blade exposed and our wood can now pivot like this. We can easily square it up by putting our square onto our blade and just moving this pivot up until it is square. Right here is square. So we got it clamped right where it's square. Over this out of the way. And we're just going to do the same thing that we did over this, just countersink some screws into this board. Oh my god, the battery again. I don't know if that means I need another beer, or need to not have another beer. So we got it locked in. Let's rip the rest of it and try it out. So there we have it, guys. This is about the simplest sled jig that you're gonna find. This thing is gonna work wonders, and it's really gonna help me out on a lot of my woodworking projects. You can go ahead and look up other types of sled jigs. I'll probably eventually build one with a backside fence that will adjust so that way you can make angled cuts. There's a lot of them with grooves in, so you can put clamps on to hold your wood down at various angles and positions. And all in all, when you're making those really difficult, crazy type of cuts, it's a lot safer to have a jig like this to where you can put your piece on and safely put it through your table saw. So I hope you liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe. And I really hope this sled helps you out on your next woodworking project. So I'm going to go ahead and put this to use. I'll see you guys next time.